Welcome back. I'm Roy with Rugged Badger Racing. This is my 2012 Lotus Evora. I have the car on the lift. I just finished tightening up the exhaust and got the diffuser back on, and I figured, hey, let's change the oil. So over here I have oil I just picked up. This is 5W40 Mobile 1. I have 7 quarts. It should take 6.1 liters, which I think is maybe 6.5 quarts, something like that. I also have a Mobile 1 filter. I have a new oil filter wrench that I received as a gift for the holidays. So let's get this panel off and get started. All right, that was pretty easy. I just checked everything over. Everything looks nice and dry. So what I gotta do, I got a ladder here. I gotta hop up. I'm gonna open the hatch. I gotta make sure I can get the, first off, the hatch open, because if I can't get oil back in, that's gonna be a problem. So I'm gonna open the hatch, remove the oil cap to avoid any vacuum taking place, and then we are ready to get the drain plug. Now, the drain plug is a 14 millimeter. All the bolts are on this bottom panel. We're a 10 millimeter, pretty easy. All right, here we go. That's draining nicely. I got the oil drain pan resting on a drip tray here, so hopefully it's not too much weight. Now, normally you want to heat up the engine, let it warm up just a little bit so the oil flows a little bit better and get all of that out there. But first off, this oil change is a little bit early. I'm not too worried about the condition of the oil that's actually in the car. Secondly, it's kind of hot out, so if it was super cold out, you know, I'd probably want to warm this up a bit, but it should be fine. And then we have the oil filter. I already put that wrench on. That's right here. That's going to be pretty easy to access. As soon as this is done, I'm going to put the drain plug back in. We'll pop that oil filter. All right, that's all drained. Now I'm going to go ahead and torque this. Now I don't have an exact specification, but it looks like probably around 25 foot-pounds. There we go. Now this does have an aluminum crush washer on there. It seemed to be in good condition, and frankly, I don't have a spare, so I have nothing to replace that with. That said, I have never had an issue, knock on wood, now it's gonna happen, right? I've never had an issue with the drain plugs on this. So next I'm gonna pop the oil filter. I'm gonna grab another pan for that. I'll set that down because that's probably gonna be a little messy. All right, oil filter is off. Now I have the oil filter housing here. Now I couldn't get the adapter off. I'll try to get that off now that that's out of the car. This is the filter element. Now there is a way to do this under here. If I took this off, there's actually a center piece inside here, and you can drain the oil in a little bit more clean way. I find it's just easier to take it off. I'm wearing gloves anyway. With the drain pans, it can stay pretty clean. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take a flashlight. I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna look inside that filter and see if I see any debris. That could be potentially a bad bearing or something like that. Now I've never really found anything with this or my other Evora. I mean, the engine has no known issues as it relates to that, so it should be pretty clean, but I'm just going to check to confirm. Then I'm going to go ahead and reassemble the filter housing. We'll get that back installed. All right, the oil filter housing is ready to go. Now I did replace the seal right here. Now there's a second seal, but the second seal goes down here. If you remove the plug, like I said, you can insert, there's this little plastic thing you can push in there, and then that makes the whole assembly drain a lot cleaner than the way I just had it. Nonetheless, I just use a screwdriver for that. Just be really careful not to scratch the sealing surface underneath that O-ring. Make sure there's no debris, but this is ready to go back in. Now I went ahead and I cleaned this up by hand as well. Just gonna get this hand tight, and then when I get this tight, I'm gonna try to get my oil filter adapter off. Frankly, I don't know how much benefit this thing actually adds. Now I did look up the torque spec for this, and the oil filter housing, you do want to get that torqued to 25 Newton meters. Get that in place. Yeah, that seems about right. Just checking and see if I could torque any more than that. See if I can. Definitely can't get it loose by hand. So I'll call that good. Now let's try to get this thing out. Oh, there we go. I was able to pull that out. I'm gonna move the camera away from this. Do actually have a little bit of brake clean because I did not clean this up yet. There we go. Just help get that residual oil off, just so that doesn't drip everywhere. And the brake clean that I'm using, again, is non-chlorinated. It is the generic stuff, but usually if you're getting the real stuff, it comes in a green bottle. The chlorinated stuff is really nasty. Now I'm spraying this after it's installed because I don't want that to get on the seals, because I don't know if there's any science behind this, but my feeling is that that's going to dry out the rubber seals. Nonetheless, that's all cleaned up. Drain plug area is all cleaned up. Now let's go ahead and get the car down. We'll fill it with oil. All right, that's all cleaned up. Drain plug's tight, oil filter's tight. Now let's get the under tray back on, then we can get the car on the ground and start putting oil in. Right, now I could not find torque specifications for these individual bolts, but they have a 10mm head and they are an M8 bolt, and I know those take around 13 to 15 foot-pounds, so I went around and just snugged all these to about 15 foot-pounds. Should be fine. All right, got my funnel in place, got my oil ready to go. Let's pour it in. So that's 4.7 quarts, or sorry, 4.7 liters, 4.73 to be exact, plus 9.5 roughly. Should be 5.68, I think. 0.95. So we need about another half a liter to get to the 6.1. It's about half. Yeah. So that should be to spec. Now I'm going to put the oil cap on. I'm going to get it off the lift, let it run a little bit, let the oil go through the system, check the dipstick, and top it off. All right, so let it warmed up a little bit here. Just run through for a minute or so. Let's check the dipstick. So on both sides of the dipstick, looks like I'm right in the middle. Now we get some streakiness up a little bit higher, but the way that the bubble pattern is, it really seems like it's right in the middle. And I gotta say, right in the middle is good enough for me. I'll keep an eye on it, and if it ever dips a little bit lower, down to the minimum, I will top it off. But I'm gonna say that is good to go. Now I've changed the oil a bunch on the Lotus Evoras. This is the first time I'm actually utilizing my lift, which I generally just use as a storage lift, but I figure while it was in the air, it'd be easy to do the exhaust, everything like that. I don't have to lay outside, especially because we had rain in the forecast. Race car is also taking up this spot, so I really had no other choice. Normally I use these ramps. Just standard ramps. Now behind the rear tires of the Evora, there's plenty of clearance, so you really don't have to worry too much when you're using the ramps. It's pretty easy to back up. Now a little trick with that, what I like to do is put the e-brake on a little bit, and that allows me to creep up without sliding back down or rolling back down. And the ramps just go right behind the rear tires. But that's it. That's an oil change, pretty easy. I'd imagine that this is no different than changing it in a Camry or a Sienna or anything like that. A fairly straightforward process, but she's good to go. On to the next project. Thank you for watching, and if you like this content, please remember to like and subscribe below. I have plenty more videos between the Evora here, our Eclipse, Fast and Furious Eclipse. I have the Miata over there, and then obviously our ChampCar Miata. Stay tuned.